Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is class 45. Okay, this is class 45. I'll make sure that I'll mention the class numbers from this class. This has become a very big problem. Okay, now let's look into, see, we have already seen the parliamentary approval process. Parliamentary approval and what and like how is the proclamation of emergency, how it has to get the approval of both the houses of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, we have seen. And what is the maximum prescribed duration in the constitution, that also we seen, that is 3 years, right? And for every 6 months, for every 6 months, like this has to take periodical approval of the parliament. This president rule kada. See, now see, we already know once president proclaims what? Once president proclaims what rule? President's rule. President's rule. Under which article? Under article 356. Once he proclaims, see, this is now a proclamation. This is now an executive order, right? Like president, who is an executive, he has proclaimed it. See, this is called proclamation of president's rule. Proclamation of president's rule. Now, this proclamation of president's rule will survive. See, it will survive for, see, for 2 months. This proclamation will survive for 2 months without the legislative approval. See, every executive order in a country like India, where we have parliamentary system of government, see, executive has to be responsible. Executive has to be answerable to the legislature. See, here who is executive? See, president is executive, right? President is executive. Now, he has to be answerable to the legislature, that is nothing but parliament. Hence, yes, he proclaimed. Once he got the advice from the cabinet, in last class we saw. See, once he got the advice from the cabinet, president proclaims. He may proclaim. Like, since this is the last resort, he may proclaim. Once he proclaims, it can survive, this executive order now, this proclamation of president's rule, without the legislative approval. Without the legislative approval, this can survive for 2 months. Okay, this can survive for 2 months. And see, next point, within these 2 months, this proclamation of president's rule must be approved. It must be approved by both the houses of parliament, right? Both the houses of parliament. Yes, once the parliament approves it, and we also saw what is the majority needed here, like with what majority Lok Sabha has to pass and with what majority Rajya Sabha has to pass. Ante, see, with just, this is president rule, this is simple majority. Here it needs just simple majority, unlike the majority that is needed with the proclamation of national emergency under article 352. There, proclamation of national emergency, it requires what? Special majority it requires. But here it requires just simple majority. Yes, president rule requires simple majority. So this is the reason it is being misused like anything. Like just, if it gets passed by majority of the members present and voting in the Lok Sabha, or and because both the houses they must be passing with this simple majority separately, and Rajya Sabha with the same simple majority. Only then like only then it can be taken as approved by the parliament. So yes, Lok Sabha passed chesindi, Rajya Sabha also passed. Now we say that it has got legislative approval. Yes, it has got legislative approval. See, this proclamation of president's rule, proclamation of president's rule, this proclamation of president's rule, this, once it gets legislative approval, like Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they have passed with simple majority. This has got legislative approval. Once it gets, now this proclamation can continue for, legally this can continue for 6 months, right? And before the expiry of 6 months, again this proclamation must be approved by, like must take the approval of the parliament again, like after 6 months, before the expiry of 6 months. So such way, for every 6 months, this proclamation, like this one, it needs to get parliamentary approval. So this thing we are calling it as periodic approval, periodic parliamentary approval, periodic parliamentary approval, periodic parliamentary approval. Okay, after it gets 6 months. So like this, like for every 6 months it has to take periodical parliamentary approval. So such way, how long can this president rule continue? Ante, for a maximum period of 3 years. For a maximum period of 3 years. We already saw this. For a maximum period of 3 years, and we already saw. Now there is a twist here. Yes, president's rule can survive for a maximum, like can be imposed for a maximum period of how many years? 3 years. Yes, but see, for every 6 months, see, like this is start, and for every 6 months it has to take legislative approval. That is nothing but periodical parliamentary approval. See, for the first 6 months it took this continued proclamation of president's rule continued for 6 months, first 6 months, and next 6 months also it got approval and it continued. So enta time ayindi? So 1 year ఇక్కడ దాకా అయింది. సి అండ్ ఇలా 6 months ఇట్ క్యాన్ బీ ఎక్స్టెండెడ్ అని చెప్పా కదా. ఎస్, ఇట్ క్యాన్ బీ ఎక్స్టెండెడ్, బట్ ఆఫ్టర్ 1 year if this has to jump for 6 more months, simply this can't happen. Ante just Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, if they give like just by getting legislative approval, by getting passed by Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha separately by a simple majority, this cannot happen. See, after 1 year, if it has to continue for 6 more months, then 2 conditions are to be met. What I am saying, 2 conditions are to be met. 2 conditions are to be met. Right, 2 conditions. What are those 2 conditions? Ante, one thing is, see, in any part of India or the whole of India, there should be an emergency imposed. There should be an emergency imposed. See, if it has to take this jump after 1 year for 6 months, 2 conditions are to be met. That just can't happen like just by getting legislative approval by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So here 2 conditions are to be met if it has to jump for these దిస్ 6 months, ఇక్కడ 1 year తర్వాత ఈ 6 months ప్రొలాంగ్ అవ్వాలంటే వాట్ ఆర్ ద కండిషన్స్ దట్ ఆర్ టు బీ మెట్ అంటే ఫస్ట్ వన్ ఈజ్ సి హోల్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియాలో ఆర్ సి వాట్ ఐమ్ సేయింగ్ దీస్ ఆర్ ద కీవర్డ్స్ whole of India or whole of state or a part of state. So somewhere among these three, somewhere national emergency, that is article 352, must be in operation or it should be in operation. If this has to take the 6 months jump after 1 year, national emergency, like in the whole of India or on the whole of the state or on the part of the state, it must be in operation. National emergency must be in operation. So this is one condition. I said two conditions together they have to be met. They are to be met anamata. Second condition is దీనితో పాటు with this another thing also, it has another condition is, see, we have election commission of India, right? We have election commission of India. This election commission of India, what it has to do, it has to certify. Election commission of India has to certify that in that particular state where the president's rule is in operation, where this has to be extended, in that particular state, ఇదే కీవర్డ్, ఇన్ దాట్ పర్టిక్యులర్ స్టేట్ ఎలక్షన్ కమిషన్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా ఏమని సర్టిఫై చేయాలి అని అంటే, ఇన్ దాట్ పర్టిక్యులర్ స్టేట్ general elections to the legislative assembly cannot be held. A particular state law, general elections, they cannot be held. General elections in that particular state cannot be held. General elections to the state legislative assembly cannot be held on account of difficulties ani election commission of India must certify. So this should be happen, this should happen and this should happen. So both together are to be met. Only then, if two conditions are met, only then after this 1 year of president's rule, another 6 months can be extended. And malli akkad nunchi inko 6 months if it has to extend, same, these two conditions are to be met. Such way till what? Till 3 years. Maximum is 3 years. But after 1 year, for these 2 years, these conditions are to be met. Like a periodical approval for every 6 months, but these conditions are to be met every time. Like here it has to meet, only then it can jump. And again, before the expiry of 6 months, e conditions undali, only then it can jump, and from here only then it can jump, only then it can jump. So such way till 3 years. So yes, I hope I covered this in depth. Yes. So thank you guys.